In this tutorial, we are going to create a cover. Now, open up your ebook template, and if you haven't already set up a template, go back and watch the video on how to set up your ebook template. We're going to start by bringing the various elements into the file, then we will move them around and tweak them as needed. I always like to start off with the background. Go to Insert, Pictures, and you should have pictures ready for this. Have everything in a folder that you can get to easily, and you just import those images as you see fit. I'm going to go to my image file. For this cover, I'm going to bring in a woods scene. Insert. And it brought it in and named it Picture 13. Now I have my selection pane open. If you don't remember how to get the selection pane, you go to Layout, Selection pane, and I just closed it. So Layout, Selection pane, and it is going to list all of the items in your file. Picture 13, I'm going to call this Woods. You call it Background if you like. Call it both. Remember to always right-click, wrap text behind text. Now I'm going to stretch this out because I do want it to fill my entire page. And while you can see out here in the gray area, you can actually see me stretching it. This is the area here that is going to be used for your cover. So I'm going to put that there. Keep in mind, you can always move this over. As I said in another video, one of the things that I always like to do with covers is to get a background that just by repositioning it slightly, I could use that same background image over and over. All right, so let's bring in another image. Insert, Pictures. And let's bring in this bear. Now this bear, brought it in as Picture 15. I'm going to rename it Bear. I'm going to right click, wrap text, behind text. You should get in the habit of always doing this. When you bring an item in, make sure you give it a name in the selection panel, then go do the wrap text behind text and bring it into your scene. Now you'll notice that this bear does not have a background. It's because I've already removed the background. I use Photoshop to do that. There are lots of graphic programs out there that you can get. Word will also let you remove a background if it is a simple background, and there is a separate video on how to remove the background using Word in this tutorial. But I've got my bear there, and so let me bring in one more thing, because most of these covers, if I was doing what's called a paranormal shifter cover, the elements that you typically have there are woods and a bear or a wolf or whatever's being shifted, and then you would have the person, or usually a bare-chested man. And so I happen to have a bare-chested man, and I will bring him in now. And again, you can see it, call it Picture 16. I'm going to change this, and I'm just going to call it Man. And again, this is an image that I have removed the background for. Now you see, I made the mistake that I keep telling you not to make. I tried to move him, and it wouldn't let me, so I have to right-click, wrap text, behind text, and now he is off the text layer, and I can move him wherever I want him to go. You might remember in the other video I said what I like to do is to get all of my elements on the screen or in the file and then tweak them as need be. So maybe I'm going to make him a little smaller. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, if you look back at some of the covers that we did research on, for example, the T.S. Joyce covers always have the woods in the background or a sky with a moon. He's got a bear. He's got a bare-chested man. So we're going to create a similar cover to what T.S. Joyce and many others use. So let's go back to our file here, and we're going to put in a title block. I'm going to insert text box, draw text box, and what that does is it just lets me draw a text box where I want it to go. And I'm going to call this Man with Bear. And let me just format that a little bit. Go to Home. I'm going to change the size, and I'll continue tweaking these. I'm just getting them in a format that we can look at. So let me move this down so I can see. And what's happening here is I've changed my text color to white, but I also have the text box formatted. So what I can do is go back to my text box, right click, and get the Format Shape pane. You can see in the selection pane it called it Text Box 17. I'm going to rename that Title. I'm going to turn off the fill. I'm going to turn off the outline. Now again, that's Format Shape. I right click the item that I want to affect and choose Format Shape, and that opens up this window. So now you can see my text. I've taken out the background, I've taken out the line, and now there's what will eventually be my title. And so I can move it up here. Again, I'm just kind of getting all of the elements in place, and then I'll tweak them and make them fit better. So I need another text box. So what I can do is just copy and paste the one I already have, or I could just go back and insert one, but I'm going to give the author name here. I'm an author. All right, so now I have the elements in my file that I'm going to use. I have a background, I have a secondary image, I have a primary image, I have my title, and I have my author. So in another video we talked about how to format your text and how to choose the text. Font is a very important part of your cover. If we go back over to, for example, the T.S. Joyce, she, he, she, whichever he, she happens to be, always uses the same font for their name. That's part of their branding. And you can see they use a kind of a sans, or this is actually a serif font for this part, and then script for this. You can do the same. Just always be aware that you don't want your book title to get too busy. So if we go back over and we're going to make this look like one of the T.S. Joyce books, we need to move the title up to the, or the author name to the top. Move the title further down. Okay, so let's change the font for our author, shall we? If you highlight it, you'll get the pop-up box, and there we go. You can select from the box, and as you go down through the list, you can actually see the font change. And so we're just going to look for a nice clean font that we can use for our author name. I really kind of like that one. I can bold that if I like. And so that's going to be my author name. Now, if I want that to stand out a little bit, I can go into Format Shape and give it a shadow. So you should have your Format Shape screen panel open. If you don't, just right-click and choose Format Shape. Let's go over to the panel. And let's just give it a little bit of a shadow just to kind of make it pop from the background a little bit. You can see the text change there a little. We can make the angle a little different if we want to make the shadow a little further out. In fact, let me turn off the background. If I go to the background here and turn that off, you'll be able to see it. One thing I forgot to do is when I copied this, it just copied the title. All right, so I'm going to go back in and call that author. And so you can see now that when I change the shadowing on the font, it changes a little bit. Now, depending on your background, it may or may not make that big of a difference, but I always like to just put a shadow behind it just to make it pop a little bit. You can also do outlines on your text if you like. Pull that up. And be careful how you use this because it can be a bit overwhelming, but if you really want it to stick out a little bit, you can give it an outline. Maybe you make it like a light gray. And so then when we turn our woods back on, you can see it pops just a little more. So what you need to do is really spend some time playing with these settings until you find something that you like, or you see something that other authors are using with great success, and then you can do the same. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to text options, and it's one thing to notice in the Format Shape panel. You have shape options and you have text options, and I've got my shadow turned on here, and I don't really want the outline, so I'm going to get rid of that. It just makes the white a little crisper. So let's back up a little bit and see how this is looking. So we might want to make that a little larger, make it stand out a little more. And I'll just change the size here. 72 I think is going to be way too big. Yeah. So let me just make that 60 and see what happens. Still a little large. Let's just pop it back down to 50. All right. So there's our author name. And then our title. Again, you can use multiple fonts if you like. For example, if we wanted to say man with bear, but we wanted the man with to be a different font. Man, let's say man, this is a shifter book, so let's say Man Loves Bear. And Man Loves, we are going to put just as a normal font. Let's see what we have here. Okay, you'll just pick what's right for you. I'm not going to spend a ton of time picking the exact font. If you look at the books that are out there now, you'll be able to tell which fonts are similar to what you want. So I'm just going to choose a Bookman Old Style there for Man Loves, and I'm going to left justify that. And then I'm going to get another text box. And remember, I'm not just going to start typing because I can't do that because I've got images here all stacked up, and just typing in a document doesn't really give me much flexibility. So I use these text boxes, and we're going to type in the word bear. Now again, remember when you do this, you have to get rid of the outlines and the fill. So you go to shape options. I don't want a fill. I don't want an outline. I want my text to be white, and I want it to be very large, and I'm going to use a different font here. I'm going to use let's do a script of some kind, or let's see. All right, and you can always go much larger on your font. The drop down only gives you an option to 72, but you can actually type in the size font that you want and they will draw it. So you see there, I've got two different kinds of fonts. I have a script, which is like a written font, and then I have my standard font, which is just basically a serif font. So again, I'm not spending a ton of time looking for the perfect font. That's something that you get to do on your own. I'm just showing you how to do it. But again, if I want to name these, you remember I had title here, and now I've got two titles. This one is text box 19. I'm just going to call it Title Bear. And now this one, I'm going to put in Title Man, and that's just, again, just to help me keep up with it. So now what I can do is I've got my titles. If I wanted to give it a shadow, I could certainly do that. Go up to my format, text options. If I want to give it a shadow, I will do so. I can just click here, and I'll do the same with bear. I want to give bear a shadow, and again, it's a very faint effect, but it's enough to separate the titles from the background. I can even change the color of the text if I like. I can change it from white to any color I like. I could also do a gradient. Now there is another video about text styles. If you want more information, go watch that video. But I could make this a gradient going from dark to light if I wanted. I could change the different gradient styles. Again, watch the video on how to do gradients for more information on that. But do what looks the best. Keep in mind that when readers are looking through all of those listings, the thousands and thousands of books, what is going to make them choose yours? All right, so I'm pretty happy with the author. I'm pretty happy with the name. Now let's work on the images. I'm going to click on our gentleman here. I'm going to go under Format Picture and just play with the color corrections a little bit to see if I can't get him to blend more into the background. And you can play with the presets here. If you change the sharpness, the brightness, the contrast, you might find one you like a little better. They always stand out on the cover, so I wouldn't be overly concerned with trying to make it actually look like they're standing there in the woods. Trust me, your readers know they're not standing in the woods. So that looks pretty good. I kind of like that. So then I'll go back to my bear. And, you know, he's kind of lost in things. So I'm going to move my guy over just a little bit. I'm going to grab my bear, and I'm going to make him a little smaller. And what you probably would want to do is find an image that actually fits the background that you're dealing with. For example, I've got a woods here, and I want the background, the bear to be kind of standing in the background. It would be really silly if the bear was up here somewhere. So if I put him in this area, that means I'm going to have to move my title down a little bit, or perhaps resize my title. And again, you may have to play with this a little bit. After you've done several covers, you will get into the rhythm because you will develop a style. When I was doing my own covers for my books, I could literally do a cover in just a matter of minutes, doing exactly what we're doing here. So looking for this size there, let's kind of do some color correction for the bear. You're going to click on the bear, go over to your format pane, and let's see, do we want to soften the bear a little bit? Make him blend into the background a little better? That did, I think that did a good job. Do I want to make him a little darker? I can make him lighter. With these presets, you can just play with what's there, or you can do whatever you want. You don't want the bear to stand out more than the man. That's one thing. So that looks pretty good. I think I'll leave that like that. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm not too concerned about the color saturation. I might take just a little bit of the saturation out of the bear just to make him blend a little better into the background. So really, if I turn off my man, let me turn off everything here. That bear actually looks like it could be standing there in those woods. All right, so that's good. So let's turn things back on. And that's a pretty good cover for what we are trying to do. Now, you can play with the background a little bit. That's one of the things that we talked about in another video. If you've got a large enough background, you can move it where you want it. If you want it, it really does change the entire outlook of the entire cover. I can also go over here under Format Picture. If I don't want the woods to stand out so much, I will soften them. See how they're kind of blurred now? That gives the illusion of depth, or I guess that actually gives it depth. If I wanted to, I could turn down the brightness and the contrast to make them a little darker if I wanted to. So you can play with the different presets, and again, you're going to eventually find one that you really like that works for you. And you can just set that up as a template and use it over and over and over. So kind of like that. I'm going to just reset it and show you the difference one more time. Watch the background as I give it a 25% blur. And it just makes everything stand out a little bit more. I really like that. So let's go back to my picture. I'm going to move my young man back over. And again, I could make him larger, smaller. I've got plenty of room to play with. And I could make him that big. I could grab my bear and move him back just a little bit. And just really play with it until I have it like I want it. So once you have all of the elements in here, then you can tweak them and get them to look like you want. Spend some time playing with this again. You're not going to get it right the first time. You may not be really happy with what you end up with the first time, but if you keep tweaking, you will eventually learn which of the presets work for you. You'll learn which elements work best. You will learn what to use, where to place it, that sort of thing. And so if you look at this, it's not really that much different from what we're doing over here. Now, they may have used Photoshop to enhance some of the shadows and that sort of thing. If you have Photoshop, you can do covers in Photoshop, or you can do the individual elements and bring them over here. And you've got yourself a nice cover. I think I'm going to blur him just a little. I just want to soften him just a tad. And it all kind of goes together now. Maybe a little blurry. I can reset him if it is. And again, you can play with things like the saturation, whatever you want to do to make him look a little better, however you want. Just make sure, again, you've got the right layer chosen. And if I'm going to turn his saturation down a little bit, that's a little better. That matches kind of the hue of the background. And let me put his sharpness back to 0 here. And it kind of goes better because that's kind of the tone for the entire book. So that's how you would lay out one of these covers. Again, this is a bear shifter book. If I was going to do a wolf shifter, all I would have to do is turn off my bear. Let's see if I have a wolf handy. And again, right click, wrap text, behind text, and then we will size him and put him in the background. Now all of a sudden our bear book becomes a wolf book. And you'll notice that our wolf is called Picture 20. We're going to call him Wolf. And he is in front of the man. Now remember, when you use the selection pane, I can click on my wolf layer or my man layer. I'll click on the wolf and I will just send him back. And you may have to click it several times depending on where the man is, but you'll notice I've got my wolf back. Now what probably would look best for this kind of cover is if I had a background that had a hill or something that the wolf could be standing on. But if that's the case, then I could just change bear to wolf. Okay, so if I want to choose another background, real simple, all I do is I can turn off the woods and I can go back to Insert, Pictures, and again, you want to have your pictures saved in a file or in a folder ahead of time so you don't have to go out looking for things. I don't know if I have the exact one we need, but let's take a look here. Kind of a woodsy setting there. There's a dark one here. Let's see what this looks like. All right, so it's going to have to be resized. First thing I do, and again, get into the habit of doing this, is change it to Blue Woods. I am going to right-click, wrap text, behind text, and I want to move it to the very back so I can use my arrow keys to move it. And again, remember what I'm doing is I'm moving it down the layers. I'm moving it behind everything else. And so now I can grab it and I can make it larger. And again, this isn't a great one because it doesn't have a plateau for the wolf to be standing on. But if I had one that had a hill, I could have the wolf standing back there in the woods. I could change the settings on it if I wanted to soften the wolf up a little bit. If I want to change the brightness and the contrast to make him fit more in with the background, if I want to change the color saturation, I can do so. And there is one other thing that I like to do to my covers, and I learned this from Derek Murphy, who's really the king of do-it-yourself cover design, and that is to use a vignette to outline the entire image. Now you'll see around the border here, it's just kind of stark. It just drops off of the edge. Well, a vignette is basically an illustration that fades into the background without a definite border. So let's get one of those and import it. Let's go to Insert, Pictures, and I can download these from the stock photo website that I belong to. You can find them online. Just make sure you're not infringing on someone's copyright, but let me grab one here. I'm going to get this one. And once I have it imported, I'll show you exactly what it is. Now, of course, I'm going to go through the process, rename the layer, I am going to right click, wrap text behind text. And now let me turn off a few things so you get a better idea of exactly what a vignette is. And there it is. You can see I can grab it and stretch it. What happens is it gives you a darkness around the edges that kind of fades in and out. And there's nothing here, so whatever I have turned on behind the vignette is going to show up. And I don't think we need our bear too, do we? Let's use our bear rather than there. And get all of our text turned on. And so you can see now with the vignette where I want it is above or in front of the other graphic elements, which you can see in the selection pane. That's where it is. It is behind the author name and the title of the book. Now I can move it up, but I really don't want the vignette to obstruct that. So you can tell it's very faint around the edges. When I turn it off, you'll be able to see how faint it is. But okay, this is with the vignette off and the vignette on. It just gives it a little smoky edge. I think that really sets the photo off, so I encourage you to use it. You can get them in different shades, blues, reds, blacks, what have you, but it is a way to just give your book a nice smoky edge without it being so stark there along the edge of the border. Again, for inspiration, go over to Amazon and look at covers similar to yours in whatever genre you happen to be in, and then you can come back and pick out the elements that you want to create yours with, and then you can create your very own cover.